The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering Co-op Advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. It's Live Music Friday, and later in the show, we'll move to the big studio downstairs to welcome the 7-piece ska band, the Valley Moonstomper Society. The Rude Boys in residency at the Marigold in East Hampton every third Thursday.
And the Wine Thunderdome gets some pep in its glass from Bubbly at Juicebox Wine Bar in Shelburne Falls with owner Alice Thompson. But we begin with a brush.
It's like a local version of The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross.
Oh my
but with
God.
2 Bob Rosses. Or is it Bob's Ross? It's Holiday Paint with Gail and Jennifer, and it's happening virtually this Sunday, December 15th.
The audio
online interactive painting class available by donation only, and Gail and Jennifer will donate a percentage of their profits to the local food bank, including our local food bank, the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts.
Jennifer is Jennifer Orkin Lewis. Jennifer's work has been featured on many products and brands worldwide, including Anthropologie, Abrams Brooks, as many others. Her books include 2 inspirational sketchbook journals published by Abrams that encourage and inspire people to develop their own daily drawing practice. Jennifer studied at Rhode Island School of Design and lives in New York.
And Gail is Gail Baker, an award-winning illustrator, writer, and visual storyteller. She graduated from the Academy of Art in San Francisco and began her career as a freelance fashion illustrator. After moving here to Western Mass, she expanded from fashion illustration into advertising, editorial, and animation. She had her first New Yorker magazine cover, June Brides, celebrating equal marriage in 2012, and has had a total of 8 New Yorker covers since then.
She has also had an ongoing column in the Washington Post called Sketching My Way Through Crisis, showing how keeping a sketchbook practice can be therapeutic for anyone, even if you're not an artist. Gail lives in Western Massachusetts with her husband, artist Peter Kitchell, and she joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us, Gail.
Thanks for having me.
I also appreciate that your Gail is written how my mom's Gail is written, and I don't get to see that very often.
Gayle.
Yes.
Gail, I've seen you many times sketching at like the Green River Festival and, in public places in Western Massachusetts making sketches. And we mentioned that you had that Sketching My Way Through Crisis. There may be people who need some sort of outlet as we head into the new year. Tell us how that manifests itself in a therapeutic way for you and for other people that you've probably heard from writing the high-profile column in the Washington Post.
The Washington Post column came about because I was friends with the art director at the Washington Post. And when the pandemic hit, they did a column with an Italian artist who was drawing and painting the experience of being in Italy.
Because remember, their lockdown happened a little bit before ours.
Which was super intense. And I watched his column and I thought, wow, this is fascinating. And one night I texted her and I was like, hey, what about a column about how to stay healthy during the pandemic? And she liked it and she connected me with an editor. And the editor saw an illustrated story that I had done when my husband Peter was in the hospital. I literally sketched his whole week in the hospital and I published it. And she saw that and she's like, this is what we should do. Because sitting in the corner of his room with my sketchbook calmed me. Instead of just like scrolling through my phone or watching TV or whatever, I was drawing, I was writing, I was engaged in a creative way. The Washington Post column, they committed to a series of 8. It was such hard work, the writing part.
Yeah.
The drawing part was easy, but it was so hard. I felt like I was in a master class for one with this editor. And I'm sure she kind of probably hated me. But it was a really good column, and it really spoke to a lot of people. And each one, we had different themes. And then when Jennifer and I started teaching how to keep a sketchbook, kind of soon after this, we just realized that even if you're not an artist, if you have a sketchbook, instead of sitting and scrolling on your phone, you take your sketchbook out, and you got a couple pens, and you doodle.
No doom scrolling, doom scribbling.
Yeah, doom scribbling. Yeah. Oh, I like that.
You can steal it.
Oh, I want that. It's like, writing your thoughts. Anyone can keep a sketchbook. And You know, Monty, I'll never forget one time at Green River Fest, I had my sketchbook and you asked if you could look at it.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
And as you flipped through it, I thought, you were probably the last person to do that because I was like, you know what? The sketchbook is for you. It's not to show off, it's for you. Don't draw or paint in your sketchbook thinking you're going to show it to someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's for you. If you want to, you can. But it's just for you.
And I was curious because I used to sketch a lot more. My old radio gig had a period of time where I had an hour every day where I just pushed buttons for another show. And because my brain goes at 1,000 miles an hour, I needed to channel some of that energy. So I did literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sketches of people over years. And it is therapeutic for me, too. I wasn't trying to say anything or I was just, I love the human face.
Yeah, I remember seeing those drawings. You did a lot of portraits.
That's what they were
Yeah.
exclusively.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I have probably 1,000 pictures of ACLU attorney Bill Newman, and I want to submit them all to like the Franklin County Fair.
Oh, great.
So there would be an entire like wall of Bill Newman's face.
Great.
I mean, it's a beautiful thing that you've done that. I can't imagine how horrifying that would be for me if it were my face.
Right.
I think graphic memoir is particularly compelling just in general. But can you talk about the process of those sketchbooks that are more narrative that you've done, even about like small, like personal things versus compressing those stories for New Yorker covers?
For me, they're totally. Well, no, they're actually, I was going to say they're totally different, but they're not. Because I say at least 3 of my New Yorker covers were painted in my sketchbook. I'm especially aware of this because there's going to be a 100th anniversary show of the New Yorker in January. It's very exciting. It's all New Yorker cover artists.
Wow.
And they asked to see what I had. And one of my recent covers was in my sketchbook, which I never tear pages out of my sketchbook. But luckily, there was nothing on the back of it. So really, last week, I cut the page out to send to them. So there'll be 3 of my original covers in this exhibition in New York in January.
That's really exciting. I remember when you got your first cover, and it was like the most exciting thing ever.
Well, it was funny because that first cover, the Daily Hampshire Gazette did an article on it.
Yeah.
Like, I did an interview with NPR.
Who?
Well, the one that used to be at UMass.
No, that's us.
That's us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, local people were very excited about it. It was a big deal. It's a big deal every time. By the way, I've had 10 covers.
10 covers. Oh, so you
So
need to
that-
update your website
Yeah,
then.
I need to update my.
Don't blame us. We're only good as the information
Yeah.
you provide for us, Gail Kabaker, who will have a holiday paint with Gail and Jennifer virtually over Zoom this Sunday by donation and to benefit, in part, the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts. Gail, what will we expect if we sign up for this? A donation of any amount, right?
Yep.
And it'll be split up to go to Jennifer's Food Bank and the Food Bank of
Yep.
Western Mass.
Yep.
What should we expect if we sign up for this class for Sunday? What can we learn from you?
Well, this has a holiday theme, but like a non-traditional, non-religious holiday theme. You sign up and then you get an email that gives you our supply list, which is basically just what we use. You can use anything. You can use crayons. You can use anything. We always start the class with a little show and tell from each of us of just maybe what we're working on or what we're excited about. And then each of us takes about 40 minutes. And this one is going to be different because we're trying to make it super, super accessible. I mean, they always usually are, but we really want people to bring their kids to this one.
Cool.
So Jennifer's going to do a very quick how to paint with acrylic gouache, which is what we paint with.
What is acrylic gouache?
So acrylic gouache is a mix of acrylic and gouache in one tube. We just like it. It's what we paint with. It's not as plasticky as acrylic, and it's more permanent than gouache. So she'll give a quick how-to demo, and then she will paint some fun animals in a holiday theme, and then I'll do mine, and I'm planning to paint some ice skaters, but super, super simple. Like the skaters are basically 5 brush strokes, and then we're also just going to show a bunch of holiday trees with snow and just some different ideas so that people could make their own holiday cards. They could decorate their own wrapping paper, like using paper bags to recycle and then painting on them. Or they might even just make a little painting that they want to give to somebody. Or they might do nothing except have fun and paint for 2 hours.
I love that.
You know?
Can we
So-
ruin it at the very end with a giant tree that goes in the front like Bob Ross did on every painting that I watched on that show?
Maybe there's a happy tree, evergreen tree.
Every time I'd watch
Why
it,
do you
I'd be
think
like,
it ruins it?
it looks like it's going to ruin it, and then it ends up being fine.
It's beautiful. It's a happy tree. They're
is a
all
happy
happy
tree, yeah,
trees.
yeah.
And some of them
But
are
I was
just
like, no,
closer.
Bob, what are you doing? Why are you putting that big tree in the front all of a sudden?
Because it's a beautiful, happy tree.
Yeah,
and
he knows.
everyone
He
needs
turns
a
out that
little
guy knew
bit.
what he was doing.
He did.
Anytime you make a mistake, before you get upset with it, look at it.
Yeah.
Well, he knew how to make money, that's for sure. I mean,
His family
he
knows
knew-
how to make money off of his
Yeah.
estate now. Go watch the
I have to
documentary.
admit, I don't know a lot about Bob Ross.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he never actually intended to make that money. Like the documentary about how he ended up doing that show is like really fascinating and a little heartbreaking.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he got saddled with that afro for his whole life too, and he was like, he couldn't lose it as much
Yeah.
as he wanted to.
Ooh,
it was
that's
too iconic.
terrible.
So don't change your hair.
Okay.
Gail
All right.
Kabaker.
Well, I did let it go gray
Well,
during
that's
the
natural.
pandemic,
It looks
and
fabulous.
I'm very
It
glad
looks
I
fabulous.
did.
And we're talking about holiday paint with Gail and Jennifer, which Gail is a Hilltown artist that has 10 New Yorker covers under her belt. So you could learn from somebody who is doing all this incredible work if it's something you're interested in, or just want to have a little fun and help to support the Food Bank of Western Mass over Zoom this Sunday.
Because painting in community is pretty fun too. I feel like classes over Zoom it's not solely a product of the pandemic, but definitely more of a product since the
for
pandemic. But has teaching over Zoom changed the way that you teach in person?
I think it's made me more comfortable. I mean, I remember teaching those first Zoom classes being super nervous. You know, it's like, oh my God, there's 300-400 people. It's like you're on stage, you know, like I was really nervous. And now the only thing that I get nervous about are Zoom glitches.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I don't get nervous in front of the people. Everybody are super friendly. They're all so happy to be there. We have fun. I mean, I've even done a lousy painting in my demo that I tried to fix because we do a lot of planning beforehand.
Wait, so you weren't trying to do a lousy painting?
No.
You just came
no,
out
no.
lousy?
No. We do a lot of painting beforehand to figure out what we're going to paint live.
Yeah.
No different than a musician
Right.
practicing what they're going to play.
Yep.
And this happened to me once where I was like, as I'm painting, I'm like, oh my God, like this looks bad. And then I said, you know what, you guys, I think this looks bad. I'm going to try to fix it. I'm going to show you how I fix it.
I'm going to put a giant tree right in the front like Bob Ross would.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
And I really couldn't fix it. And I finished and I was like, well, you know what? It happens. Then I showed all my prep paintings, which actually look fine.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of at a stage where I don't really worry if I do a bad painting. People know I'm not the sum total of that one bad painting anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, she actually can't paint. You're like, no, I don't think they think that. But we try to really let people see our process. We're not trying to be super slick. And they're very accessible. And, you know, we really love doing them.
You've mentioned doing sketchbook practice for yourself and like artistic practices that you hold for yourself without worrying about like outside critique. Are there tools or practices to help you be more comfortable with your own work and your own space? Like, how did you become more comfortable with just like making work for yourself?
That's such a good question. I have artist friends who have trouble being inspired and sometimes don't know what they want to paint. I always paint from photos. I don't make stuff up out of my head. So I've gotten to be a way better photographer. And then I print them out in black and white. And I have this kind of stack of photos on my table. And when I have time to paint for myself, which I try to do as often as possible, because honestly, those are the things that turn into New Yorker covers. But I have a lot of assignment work and commissions, you know, so it's a hard balance, actually. My rule is I have to be kind of finding some joy in the painting.
The joy of painting.
The joy of painting, yeah.
Bob Ross's show.
Hello, I'm Bob Ross, and I'd like to welcome you to the 29th Joy of Painting series.
But I also know sometimes that the process is hard. So sometimes I'll be working on a painting for a couple hours and it looks really bad. And then I paint over the bad parts and it's a layering process. So sometimes there's a lot of layers to get to where I want to go. It's like about not being too attached to what the end result might be and just like settle into the process is hard, but I think that's how I get my best outcomes, and I try not to worry too much about it. I mean, a lot of my New Yorker covers were like surprises. I was like, oh, you picked that. Like, wow, awesome. That's one of my favorite paintings, you know? So I just find that when I'm painting like from a place of what I really, really love, that works really well for me. So that's what I suggest to other people. Like I started keeping, I'm a grandma now. I have a 4-year-old granddaughter and a 1-year-old granddaughter. And a lot of you people out there know my daughter.
Sonia Kitchell, the excellent Valley-based musician.
So when Mona was born 4 years ago, I started keeping a sketchbook dedicated only to her, which I've never done. I've never had a one-themed sketchbook. And it is one of the most fun, gratifying processes I've ever done because I had 2 rules. I had to be having fun when I did the painting, and it didn't have to look like her. Mm-hmm. Because once you attach, like, oh, God, I got to make it look like the person, forget it. You're not having fun anymore.
Right.
It's the essence of the person, and that has been so much fun. And also not attaching any monetary or commercial value to it has also been extremely liberating.
Art for art's sake.
Art for art's sake.
It's an important thing, I think.
It is.
And you can do art for art's sake, but also to help benefit the food bank of Western Mass this Sunday. Holiday Paint with Gail and Jennifer Orkin Lewis, and Gail Kabaker, who's a Hilltown-based artist. It's this Sunday. It's over Zoom. Once you go through the class, you are guaranteed to get a New Yorker cover as an artist, I've been told. Okay, maybe we can't make that guarantee.
Say that out loud.
But no, you're likely guaranteed to have lots of fun and making holiday-themed stuff with these 2 incredible professional artists, one of whom lives right here in Western Mass. Thank you so much, Gail, for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
You can find all the details on the Holiday Paint Zoom class on Gail Kabaker's Instagram page.
And in our show notes for today's podcast.
Later in the show, live ska music for Live Music Friday with the Valley Moonstomper Society.
But first to Shelburne Falls, where the Wine Thunderdome returns to Juicebox Wine Bar, where we'll take their 3 sparkling wine selections.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Bubbles.
Well, we've taken the Wine Thunderdome back on the road to, I think, what might be the only wine-identifying restaurant exclusively in the Valley as far as I can think of.
That might be true.
And also, if you want to embed yourself in one of the instant holiday classic movies that came out last year, The Holdovers, you can do exactly what I did, which is park in the parking lot and walk up Water Street onto Bridge Street, and you are in the movie set of The Holdovers.
Before we get going, can I be candid with you? Mm-hmm. You smell like fish.
And then keep walking a little bit, and you're at Juicebox, where we are with one of the owners, Alice Thompson. Thanks for accommodating us here in the Wine Thunderdome, Alice.
Welcome back to Shelburne Falls.
Yes, Shelburne Falls Wine Mecca, that we've been calling it. Maybe we couldn't call it Mecca because they don't usually drink alcohol in Mecca.
Not in Mecca.
How about a wine hub?
I was talking about this place to friends of mine over the weekend, and all of them were like super enthusiastic. Mostly about like the opportunity to come in when it's in the warmer months and beyond the patio, but still just like, this place is so cute and awesome.
A very small little restaurant, but again, there's a lot of other great wine shops, restaurants, and also bowling alleys in Shelburne Falls, which 2025 goal, do a segment with Shelburne Falls bowling.
I definitely want to hit all of the candlepin places in Western Mass.
See? You're welcome. That's not bad. Pretty good teacher, kid. Too bad everybody dislikes you. Pretty much hates you. But you must know that.
Touche, sir.
Alice, tell us, for if people don't remember when we were here last time, the idea behind the Juicebox Wine Bar.
So we are a natural wine bar. We feature organic or biodynamic wines from all over the world. Try to keep things straightforward as far as wine and ideology goes. Nothing goes in there that's not really supposed to go in there.
Be a lot of garbage put in there in mass-produced wines for sure. You Khalees,
Yes.
wanted to focus on something in particular for this, what may be our last wine tasting for 2024.
'Tis the season of bubblies because everyone gets bubbles to celebrate the end of the year generally. Or like there's champagne tastings, there's sparkling wine tastings all over, and why should we not be involved in that?
I did a little research as to why we do champagne on New Year's Eve. I mean, people have done it historically for any type of celebration, but there was a restaurant, a French restaurant in New York City, who made you buy champagne on New Year's Eve and nothing else. You were not allowed to drink anything but champagne. And that's kind of where the thing got popularized in this country in particular.
How does it become popular when you're forced to do it?
Forced fun. That's what the holidays is all about. You're gonna sit on Santa's lap and you're gonna like it.
Ho, ho, ho.
So you have 3 sparkling wines on your menu here at Juice Box in Shelburne Falls, Alice, and let's hear about what they are.
So we have a yummy Prosecco from Veneto. It's called Col Fondo by Canetta di Navi. And we've got a Lambrusco. I think you guys were here for a different Lambrusco, but
Yeah.
this one is called Albone by Podera Il Saliceto 2022. And then lastly, we have Foam Vulcan, which is a really cool name, by Mind Clang.
Foam Vulcan? That's like the fake ears that I have from Star Trek when I'm going to cosplay as Spock.
Captain, I see no reason to stand here and be insulted.
It's the most logical of wines.
It's fascinating.
Fascinating is a word I use for the unexpected.
And that one's from Hungary.
Hungarian wines are almost impossible for me to pronounce. So it looks like Mind Clang Foam Vulcan, which is like the
grapes are impossible to pronounce.
and then yeah, the grape, forget it. Harslevelu Jufark. J-U-H. Just in case it sounded weird.
Apologies to any Hungarians in our audience.
Yeah.
Please come help.
Also, if you are Hungarian and want a little snack, oh, that's just Hungary. You also have awesome snacks here, awesome cheese plates, and I think
this
about
one?
your pate so frequently. I came here last time I was here with my wife. We got the cheese plate, and she does not like pate, and I was in heaven. I get to eat all the pate all by myself.
But you also have potatoes raclette, and that is just a beautiful, wonderful thing. There are a few perfect matchups, like cheese and potatoes, if you can do cheese, and then just melted raclette on potatoes is like sounds amazing.
And wine.
And then the wine.
And then wine too.
Yeah. So where should we start with the sparkling wine tasting here, Alice?
Let's start with the Prosecco. This is technically not officially a Prosecco because they decided to go with Crown Cap.
Oh, yeah. And they have so many rules to make things what they are in Italy and France and all these places. But yeah,
So it has to be cork in order for it to properly be Prosecco.
which is weird because Prosecco's bubbles are less bubbly usually than, say, a champagne or another type of sparkling wine. So why be so hardcore?
Italy's got its own rules for a lot of things.
Italy's rules are like no rules. That's their thing. If it's confusing, it's usually Italian. Woo! I guess that one does have plenty of bubbles in it.
Yeah.
Alice was about 5 feet away from us when that noise happened.
Awesome.
The American Eye Association every year around this time does release like a public service announcement to say, please open your sparkling wine responsibly. You literally can lose an eye.
Yeah, it's true.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
What do you think sets Prosecco apart from other sparkling wines, Alice, at Juice Box?
I'm not a sparkling wine elitist. I mean, obviously there are some champagnes that are incredible and irreplaceable, but I am not judgmental. I think they're all delicious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's bubbly in your mouth. It's fun to drink. Prosecco's great. I think it's a bad rap.
Because there's a lot of garbage Prosecco.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the same way that like there's garbage Beaujolais, and we've been introduced to a lot of Beaujolais that's really wonderful. There's a lot of Prosecco that's really good out there too.
Absolutely. But buyer beware. Go to a place like Juice Box or a wine store that knows what they're talking about. And if you really like Prosecco, they will guide you along that way. Oh, look, it couldn't get more holiday out there. There's a young family with Santa hats on walking down the street.
Aww.
They're pretending they're in the holdovers too.
You just earned yourself a detention, sir.
Being with you is already one big detention.
Son of a...
And hopefully not pretending they're in Dexter.
Hello, Dexter Morgan.
But you can get Dexter merch at the shops that are right down the street from here.
Yeah.
And I just went into the bookstore, Boswell's. I love that place. So good. Okay, what are you thinking?
Smells green, which is great.
It's an Elphaba wine. And your descriptions on your wine lists are always really fun. Uncut apple with leaves.
Oh yeah, that would be the green part.
Baked bread. Yeah. The very specific nature with the leaves, I think really does say a lot. But
Yeah, like when you go to an apple orchard and just kind of pick it and like stuff it in your face to smell.
Yep. I
Yeah.
like this a lot.
Me too. I often don't go with the Prosecco route when I'm going to go sparkling wine because I am judgmental. But this one I really like. The Caneva di Nani. It's like my nana.
We're not good Italians.
Col Fondo Galera from This Is a Prosecco. Sparkling tasting juice box. Alice Thompson, proprietor. This is a different wine Thunderdome because we're going to try all three.
We get a bonus because it's holiday season.
Yeah, holiday bonus.
It's a holiday bonus.
Woo! This one sparkling with a beer bottle cap.
Yeah. So this is the Foam Vulcan by Mein Klein.
Live long and prosper.
Foam Vulcan. Maybe a lot easier to open that one because of you open it with a beer opener.
Yeah, I also thought that it was going to be a little bit more volatile, but no, it's totally reasonable.
And the mousse on this one looks like it might be a little more bubbly than the Prosecco, which, oh no, maybe not. The mousse is right when you pour it, all the bubbles that come up to the top. Alice, you're not drinking any of these.
I'm going to have a sip of this.
Oh man, this one is wicked funky. Immediately incredibly different.
This is super funky. Oh, it's like camembert.
Yeah, I was going to say, cheese is what I smell.
Yeah.
I love that.
So they're actually an Austrian winemaker group, but they have kind of like branches of different places where they grow grapes. So this one's made in Hungary.
That explains the very German-sounding wine.
Mein Klang, Foam Vulcan. I'm in a new metal band called Mein Klang, and our first album is called
Foam Vulcan.
Foam Vulcan. Du Hast is the name of the grape. No. It's Harzlevelu or something along those lines. I love all of this. I'm here for all of this. You have described this one as green apple, pear, slate, and lime. Khalees and I describe this one as straight up cheese.
I mean, this is cream. Like, I get the slate, but like, this is way creamier than I was expecting it to be on the palate.
This one is so awesome that I don't even want to sip it. Like, I want to just keep smelling it and live in this world for a long time.
It stays funky on the palate, too. Like, it's creamy, but it's, camembert.
The mark of a great wine to me is that I spend way more time contemplating it before I even want to put it in my mouth, and this has that. I think the funk is less present on the palate. It goes back to being a wine as opposed to a cheese. I've also noticed myself drinking this wine with my eyes closed, which is another good sign because it brings my imagination to life in this crazy way. Like I was imagining being in Hungary. I was imagining trying to find seafood to go with this.
This is just nuts good. And now I'm getting apple. Like it came so late.
The Vulcan Mein Klang. Remember the mind meld?
Our minds are one. I feel what you feel.
It's so perfect. And this is called Foam Vulcan. Couldn't get any more Trekkie than this.
Are you both Trekkies?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's more
I'm by Star Ewell.
The door sound that goes like that's my ringtone. So.
Yeah, nice.
My mom didn't like the original Star Trek, but when Whoopi Goldberg joined the cast of Next Generation, it was the show that started getting her into sci-fi. So my mom is the only person in my immediate family who's not a giant nerd.
And I wanted to be Wesley Crusher when that show was on TV. I was
were
like, this would be my dream job.
Oh, no.
To be like on TV and to be on Star Trek?
I mean, like, sure, but also Wesley Crusher is like possibly...
Well, we were like the same age. That's why I was like, I want to be a kid on TV on Star Trek on the Starship Enterprise with Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
I want to be a slightly less annoying kid on Star Trek Enterprise.
Shut up, Wesley!
Shut up, Wesley.
This is amazing.
This is amazing.
Yeah, a little bit of the cheesy funk has blown off the nose, but a richness is coming on the palate, and the bubbles just accentuate all that. It's got almost an unctuousness. And the bubbles, the funk is definitely still there. The funkier, the weirder, the better. The more I can't pronounce it, the more I'm probably going to like it. The more sci-fi references imbued in its name, the more it's for me.
Don't say that, because the Game of Thrones wines are all pretty... Well, that's fantasy.
That's what I do. I drink, and I know things.
Don't drink that.
No.
Okay. We usually do 2 wines, but it's a special holiday edition of the Wine Thunderdome where 3 wines enter. 1 wine will leave at the Juicebox Wine Bar, Bridge Street, Shelburne Falls.
Going through bubbly things because it's the end of the year, and that's where we drink the bubbles the most.
With proprietor Alice Thompson. The last one, we had this style of wine last time we were here. And this is another, like Prosecco, oft-disparaged sparkling wine from Italy. Why does everybody hate my people?
They don't.
I'm a Luigi.
It's Lambrusco. Like the Prosecco, oftentimes by wine snobs in particular, a disparaged category of wine.
Hello, blood.
100% blood. And this is a red sparkling wine. Most people don't think of it like this, but many sparkling wines, including champagne, are actually red grape-based. Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, red grapes. A lot of champagne and sparkling wines are that. This one actually looks red, and that is always the case with Lambrusco, which is both a place and a grape? I forget.
No, Lambrusco, I don't think that's a place.
Not a place? Okay. I can never remember, because again, Italy, who knows?
But like berries too.
Oh, totally berries.
A little bit of that cola thing.
It almost has, without even being a stewed, like a mulled wine for the holidays, have a mulled wine kind of smell.
Oh, that's delightful.
Khalees likes it so much. I'm going to have to put in a beep, which I always love.
Usually I remember not to swear. Usually.
Yeah. The American palate, by and large, talks dry and drinks sweet. Meaning they say that they don't like sweet wines, but they actually do. This one is not a sweet wine, but it's definitely sweeter than the other two wines and really hits the spot.
Yeah.
As the third wine, it's the dessert of the three that we had.
It is for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely a holiday wine, I would say.
Oh yeah. It's fruity, it's not big, it's not overwhelming. It's just like really, really nice. I don't have better adjectives yet. I haven't tasted it again.
It's like perfect for pizza.
Yeah.
I used to, when I was a kid, I used to dip my crust in Coca-Cola. Okay, I know it sounds crazy, but this is kind of the vibe.
Oh yeah, because there definitely is a cola aspect.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, cola.
I can't wait to try that now. I put mustard and any other types of sauces on crust over the years, but I've never dipped it in Coca-Cola, but I'm going to try it.
I swear it's like not bad. I haven't tried it since I was a kid, but
You may still like it. I had a Filipino friend in college who often ate fried egg and jelly sandwiches, and it seems like right up that sort of alley.
Yeah, when I went to Local Burger and they had a peanut butter and jelly and sriracha hamburger, I was like,
That makes sense.
This sounds like it's going to be gross. It's like practically the most delicious thing in the whole world.
Yeah.
I definitely have to try that. I'll go.
Yeah. Or when my father-in-law said, hey, why don't you put some peanut butter on that slice of apple pie? And I tried it, and I have never looked back.
Yep.
So anyway, Coca-Cola, pizza crust, Lambrusco here at Juice Box Wine Bar, Bridge Street, Shelburne Falls, with Alice Thompson, the owner, who has been tasting us on all three of the sparkling, but there are white wines, there are rosé and orange wines, there are regular old red wines, there are not wines, including beers and from our friend Stoneman, and even non-alcoholic beverages, as well as delicious food.
I know, I'm looking at the beautiful non-alcoholic mulled wine, which seems real perfect and wonderful for this time of year.
What do you mull for the non-alcoholic mulled wine?
It's reduced pomegranate, grape, and blueberry and tart cherry juice.
That sounds fantastic.
Sounds amazing.
So you reduce it so it's kind of like wine has.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that sounds awesome.
Now is the time where we must vote. I'm of two minds because certainly the most interesting wine is the Foam Vulcan.
There is no alternative.
But I think also certainly the most delicious one is a Lambrusco. So, am I feeling desserty or am I feeling adventurous? And it's the holidays where we indulge, and while I don't usually ever eat dessert, I had a piece of cake at the NEPM holiday office party last night, and so I'm voting with my people and Lambrusco and dessert.
I really, really like the Lambrusco, but I think I'm gonna go with the Foam Vulcan.
I don't blame you. That Foam Vulcan is so weird and so amazing. So there's no winner unless Alice Thompson, the proprietor, has a vote.
In my opinion, the Foam Vulcan kind of stands out a little bit more, so that would be my vote, but they're all very, very good and fun to drink.
You're biased because your ringtone is a Star Trek door.
That's determining. In fact, we're all Trekkies, so.
I'm fine with it.
And frankly, these wines are all winners. These
Yes.
are all really fantastic. This is a great lineup, and it will give you some real good perspective on all the non-champagne-y sparkling wine things you can get up to.
Live long and prosper.
Up next for Live Music Friday, we'll head to our big studio downstairs, Studio A.
Where we will accommodate the 7-piece ska band who has an every third Thursday residency at Marigold in East Hampton, which means this coming Thursday, December 19th, the Valley Moonstoppers Society will play for us next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering graduate programs in public affairs, public policy and administration, data analytics, and computational social science. umass.edu/SPP. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, homegrown in Hatfield, Massachusetts, and providing energy savings for their customers for over 10 years. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. It's Live Music Friday, and today's band is here to help us dance.
And they're so big we had to go to a whole other studio to record them.
The Valley Moon Stompers have been bringing ska, rocksteady, and dub to audiences across New England, and especially East Hampton at Marigold with their residency there. A rotating cast of Valley musicians, mainstays, make up the band, led by Dan Thomas and Jeff Fennell, who initially bonded over their love of music from older and forgotten Jamaican labels.
This season, they've been releasing seasonal shuffles that are seriously skankable, including their last single, Red Capes, a new single out today, a Trojan Sounds-influenced take on Deck the Halls, and their last Third Thursday residency at the Marigold for 2024 is this coming Thursday, December 19th.
With us today from their stock of musical collaborators are Dan Thomas and Nico D'Amico on guitar. Nico D'Amico. Is that how you say it?
That is.
Awesome! Nico D'Amico on guitar, Jeff Fennell on sax, Jay Metcalf on keys, Dave Noonan on cajon, drum, and tambourine, Chris Ball on bass, and Gershon Rosen on trumpet. Let's hear a song from the Valley Moon Stompers this Live Music Friday on the Fabulous 413. That is the Valley Moon Stompers here on the Fabulous 413 for Live Music Friday. They're going to have their last Third Thursday residency at the Marigold in East Hampton of 2024 this coming Thursday, December 19th.
Dan, what appealed about doing ska in the Valley?
There's so many answers to that. Well, I came from a rock background, and then I started learning jazz and about improvisation and had a blast doing that. And then fast forward many years later, found out there was this type of jazz in Jamaica that has a really cool rhythm to it called ska. So that's kind of the short end of the story. Anytime I've heard a ska song come on the radio, anybody who's in the room, it starts moving their head. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't like ska. And we don't have a lot of it in the Valley or anywhere as far as the older stuff. You know, there's a lot of modern ska, a lot of ska core, and all the people who go to those shows all dig the roots of the music too. So it seemed like there was kind of ripe to have a night that showcased the roots of ska.
What wave of ska are we in right now? I think when in the 90s, when I was into the Mighty Mighty Bosstones and following them around, that's third wave.
That's technically third wave
that was
ska.
third.
Like fifth or sixth.
How many? Yeah, fifth or sixth wave.
I saw a poster that said ninth wave on it the other day. So
Yeah, I never know what wave of feminism we're in either, actually. So that keeps getting confusing. What separates ska from rocksteady, from reggae, in your opinions as musicians? This may be a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
Yeah.
Anyone can feel free to chime in, but from the guitarist's point of view, okay? The first thing is the history, the time. Ska came first.
Yeah.
Ska was first. It came after Mento. If there's another genre to go check out. Great music in the Mento scene. Hilarious.
The Freshmaker.
Yes.
Oh, not
exactly.
that.
Yeah, no. Though maybe the origin of the Freshmaker. So then came ska. Back in the day, the Jamaicans were playing a lot of American jazz, American R&B. They had the language down, but they wanted to play some music that was Jamaican and not just copying Americans. So you have all of the instrumentation and the tonality, the harmony, the styles that was around with music in the 60s, but they put a Jamaican beat to it. So what's the difference? The way I think about it as a guitar player is just the tempo. Ska, you have a rocksteady slows that down a little bit. That happens about 5 years later. And then a few years later, it slows down a little bit more, and then you get reggae tempo. It's just more like your upbeats now feel like downbeats. That's the super simple way to explain it. A lot goes on in the drums. Dave might have some more input on the things that change in the drum beat through ska and Mento.
Yeah, the
ska and
tempo
reggae.
is a big part of it. The tempo and the feel and the way the bass guitar comes forward and takes over in rocksteady, especially reggae, where like in ska, it's like big band music, you know, and the horns really kind of dominate the melody and the tone of the music and the brightness and the joy.
I also often think of reggae as bringing threes into the system a lot more too, but that might just be me.
We're speaking with the Valley Moonstompers, who have their last residency at Marigold in East Hampton this Thursday, December 19th. Have new music out today. Have some holiday stuff that they have been recording as well.
I mean, like, the best way to hear carols is gonna be ska.
I think so too.
It's the best,
large.
and it's royalty free. Let's go.
Well, let's hear another song from the Valley Moonstompers this Live Music Friday on the Fabulous 413. that is the Valley Moonstompers.
So good!
We had to move downstairs to fit all 7 of 10, I think, of Valley Moonstompers.
It's rotating cast of characters. It's changing. We're a society, so we're made up of a lot of people. That's kind of where the society part of the name comes in. It's like it's a group for anybody on stage and off stage who appreciates or wants to appreciate ska music. Today we have this is like the core, but we have members all over the globe.
We're glad we didn't have to cram you into our little studio. We made special accommodation thanks to our engineer, Bart Rankin, to come and use the big television studio. Thanks for doing that.
How hard is it to maintain that larger society of folks? I mean, you've got charts for everybody, but organizing practices when you've got a rotating in and out cast of characters must be... I always talk about this because I also have a large band, and I'm just like, how hard is it for you guys to get together in practice? Because I have my own war stories.
It's easy. We don't.
Everyone's got day jobs, they've got families, they've got lives, right? So to have a weekly practice is a tough thing. On one hand, to rely on the musicianship of the people that are in the group. These are all professional musicians who play regularly in all sorts of other groups, all kinds of
including
other music.
Mystic Bowie. And then what's happening tonight? Prince Bowie at Stone Church, Brattleboro tonight.
Different Bowie. That's where Gershon's going to be. Chris and Jeff and I also play in the Mary Jane Jones. We'll be at the Marigold on December 21st. Nico's all over the reggae scene. He plays a lot with Cinnamon Blair and any other projects. The Boogalistics and the funk scene. Gershon and Nico play with the Boogalistics. Dave's got his group, Dave Noonan's Green Island, which is where a lot of us really learned how a ska beat is supposed to feel.
And Dave teaches drums to my next door neighbor to tie in this week's theme of people that are related in carpools to me.
Yeah, all that to say, we have, these are seasoned musicians, so these are the type of musicians that can show up on a gig and just play it.
And especially having the residency at Marigold, once a month we get together and play for 3 or 4 hours. So that's really where all the creativity happens and the magic happens and the work goes on.
That's how the Beatles did it in Germany.
Those kinds of residencies are the inspiration for doing this. We've seen those residencies happen around town, like Bo Sasser's got his funk night on Wednesday nights. Some of us will drive to Boston to see Dub Apocalypse on a Sunday night. There's residencies that happen out there. And that's where you see where musicians really hone their craft, is when they have that regular gig.
And we love live ska music, and we've been really lucky to have this whole band here. I think we might have time to squeeze in one more song with the Valley Moonstompers here on Live Music Friday, with the Valley Moonstompers, who will wrap up their 2024 residency at the Marigold in East Hampton this Thursday, December 19th. We'll take a little break and we'll come back with a little bit more from the Valley Moonstompers here on the Fabulous 413.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. It's Live Music Friday with a little holiday cheer from a band in residency at the Marigold Theater in East Hampton every third Thursday. The studio version of this song comes out today on Bandcamp and was recorded at Fun Room Studio in Greenfield. It's the Valley Moonstompers Society live in Studio A here at NEPM.
Next week on the Fabulous 413, copious amounts of music and a whole lot of holiday celebrating with a look at the history of Kwanzaa and the ways you can celebrate locally with Usman Power Green, Ayanna Crawford, and Amilcar Shabazz.
We'll celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Triplex Cinema coming back from the brink and going nonprofit.
We'll learn about some of the darker holiday observances from around the world with folklorist Jeff Belanger.
2 words, Yule Lads. Plus a plethora of the bands you can catch at this year's first night, including Ray Mason, All Feels, The Leafies You Gave Me, The Mitchells, and more.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. We'll see you next week on the Fabulous 413.